Yo,
Hello, mate.
dude, it's so good to see you.
How are you? How's it going?
Good, man. And relatively speaking to everything kind of going on in the world, we're doing okay, man. How about yourself?
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, no, all good. As well as can be expected. Yeah, man, and excited to have music out. It's been a nice distraction for us to make, and hopefully it's a nice distraction for people to listen to. 2 minutes of escape. I hope. Yeah, how's life? How's life where you guys are?
We're good, man. We're good. We're in California. Things with the pandemic are dicey, but again, like I said, relatively speaking to some of the tough stuff going on in the world, we're okay. We're grateful to be getting things like new songs from Bastille. That does help. That is a distraction, and it's a nice break from the onslaught. Even though it's a song sort of about the onslaught of information, it is a nice break from the onslaught of information. For sure.
But
and we were kind of like as we were waiting for you to connect, we were kind of saying that it just feels like with this song that this band is super energized and super excited about the music that they're making right now. And and you have described things a little bit as a restart. And I was wondering if you could kind of go into more depth about what you meant by that.
I guess we've done three albums and 4 mixtapes, and I'd always kind of envisaged our first 3 records as a trilogy. And in terms of the creative process, they always were. We wrote everything, we produced it with Mark Crew, recorded it in our own studio, kind of totally on our own terms, and have always been really proud of that. But I think, and conceptually have always been as thoughtful as possible around what each album is, what it's saying, what it represents, what stage of our life it is. And I guess we just thought, now that trilogy is kind of over, we'd always planned on taking a break at the end of the 3rd album. So this year for us was always going to be a kind of one without touring, which in our weird lives is a change, and that's kind of exceptional. So I think we just wanted to just try and shake things up a bit for us, for the creative process, to collaborate more outside of the mixtapes, and to, I don't know, just be a bit more spontaneous and enjoy it. Enjoy it as much as possible, and lean into surprising people as much as we can. And I think this song was one that, we finished and it just sounded loud and urgent. And it's a really interesting barometer for me when I can play stuff to my friends. I can tell when they're like, "Oh, that's a nice Bastille song," or when they're like, "Fuck," like that's it's nice to sort of it's both nice and incredibly insulting to gauge the different reactions of people. But I just feel like with this batch of music, I want it to feel like a new phase. Like we feel energized. I guess we always treat things like we're a new band and we have everything to prove. And I feel like even within the songs we've been making up to now, we always think that we're experimenting a lot, and I think in the production there is that, but I think as soon as you put my voice on top of something and my songwriting, it just somehow it sounds, for better or worse, like Bastille. So I think it was just about stepping back and being like, rather than us thinking, oh, this is going to sound like a certain genre or a certain band, and then playing it to people and they're like, yeah, that's a Bastille song. I was like, no, I want you to push play on this, and when the guitars and drums kick in, for you to be like, fucking hell, they went there. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of it. Like, I feel like we think we maybe did that before, but this feels like the first time that it really hits like that. And that's nice. I want almost every track people hear from now on for them to push play and be like, oh shit, this is Bastille. Like, but in a good way, not just to try and isolate people. But yeah.
Was there a moment with what you're going to do, or maybe it wasn't what you're going to do, maybe it was another song that we haven't heard yet, where you knew that this was what was happening with the band? And I'm talking about that re-energized feeling, when you were like, oh my gosh, this is kind of what we wanted to do after the trilogy was done. This feels right.
Well, it's funny. What you're going to do, I've started writing it in Salt Lake City when we were on the Doom Days tour last year. And for some reason that day is really vivid to me. We were playing in Salt Lake City on a Saturday. Kanye West was also doing a Sunday service on a Saturday in Salt Lake City, an outdoor mall. And we had a friend called Vince, who's an engineer, who was along helping record the ideas I was writing on the road. And so it was a pretty packed day. But I, wrote this song, tried it out in sound check, then went saw Kanye, then we played a show, then we got on the bus and drove off to the next town. And but it really sticks with me, and that's where the sort of bones of this song came from. But even then, I was like, I want our loud, angry moment. And that's kind of where it all started. I wanted, and it's been percolating from there. But I guess I know there's this kind of corner of our fan base that likes the sort of rockier element of what we do, and I think, I wanted to be like our, obviously nowhere near in the same league, but like our Smells Like Teen Spirit, our song too, like. Sure. I wanted that moment for our band, and the spirit of like just throwing all the rules out the window of just trying to make a batch of songs that felt like, I think they're Bastille because they say something I think that's interesting and worth saying, but there's like melodies you want to remember and that stick with you. But yeah, I guess everything else is just gone. Like any rules we might have set for ourselves in the past have gone, and hopefully, this song is a pleasant surprise. It's two minutes of surprising noise.
It absolutely is. Again, in the lead up to this conversation, we said it had fire and it had fury. It had the songwriting and the quality we expect, or we've come to expect from Bastille, but also this energy and this new life that it makes us happy knowing that you guys seem to be so happy and refreshed, and it's a great jolt for us. Well, no doubt about it. At what point did Graham Coxon get involved?
So, it's a good question. I guess, sorry, just to like go back to what we were saying before, I guess the other thing is we've always generally made records whilst also touring loads. Mm-hmm. And the plan this year, one of the things, in the spirit of wanting to really shake things up, we wanted to just stop because we've been on the road for pretty much 7 years. So it felt really important to take an actual break for the first time. And so that's, that contextually is really different as well. So we took the time at the beginning of the year after we finished touring in like Australia and New Zealand to just be in our studio, be around, live our lives and make music. And I guess the song was kind of nodding to the sound of Graham in terms of the heaviness and the guitar, and looking back to like Blur songs that we love, amongst many others. But we just we thought like, fuck it, let's just ask him, let's just see if he's up for it, and sent him the song. And it's always terrifying sending people that you hugely admire, sending them something that you've made, because it's music, it's totally subjective. Like there's every I'm also a massive pessimist, so I'm like, he'll fucking hate it and he'll laugh at it. Actually, he was like, yeah, I'd love to jump on it. And he's an incredibly warm and like collaborative, like generous guy. So it's interesting though, like it will always be a song that came through lockdown. We sent it to him, he sent us guitar parts back. We were obviously insanely excited. It was like Christmas morning getting those files. I've never been more excited to receive an email attachment in my fucking life.
Sure.
And then once that was all set in, like, the song was heavy before, it was always really heavy, but we were like, I just think him and his like unique style could really add that British heavy grit and noise that we really wanted. Mm-hmm. And then after we put the guitars in, I went back to him and was like, would you be able to do some vocals as well? Because his vocal's so distinct, like it's so British. I think a bit like mine, it's very British sounding and so distinctly kind of him and Blur, and yeah, he was up for it as well. So I was like, probably should have asked for a third thing, but you don't want to push your luck.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Those collaborations sometimes on paper work and in reality don't, and this one absolutely in reality works for sure. I'm glad you guys were as happy with it as we were. you mentioned that it was written last year pre-lockdown, but maybe recorded during lockdown, and some of the other music that you've been making recorded in lockdown. But I thought I saw you say that you're not really writing things that are about lockdown right now. Nothing like pointedly about what's going on in the world right now. Is that true?
I feel like often with us, the stuff that we write about is not intended to be about the current situation, but ends up, I don't know, maybe because everything we write is pretty apocalyptic and depressing, you know, and the world being what it is, it's sort of intentionally or not, so it seems to become quite relevant. But I think, you know, the ideas in this song, the idea that like so many, you know, everywhere we go and everywhere we look, people are fighting for our attention. And I guess the song is a little bit of a like tongue-in-cheek call to arms of like, come on guys, give us something good. Like,
yeah,
entertain us, like at least be funny or interesting or worthwhile, or like, you know, that's the sort of sentiment of it. And I think, you know, this year and lockdown has just meant that we've spent so much more time inside looking at screens, and our lives are so much, you know, so much more as if they weren't before. Like I'm not, there's no judgment coming from me. Like I'm surgically attached to my phone. Sure. I'm the worst. I'm the absolute worst. So like, it's more just, I don't know, this song, I guess, maybe also expresses some of the frustration of this year, like just outside of exactly that theme. You know, there's so much has happened this year, and there's a real kind of like, I think in a really good way. I mean, not in a good way, but like it's allowed us to stop and think about things in the world that just aren't all right and aren't okay. And I think there's a real feeling amongst a lot of people that things that maybe we might have sat back and thought like that's happening and it's not cool, but there's nothing I can do about it. I think a lot of people now feel really empowered to say like, no, like whatever voice I have, however like big or small it is, I'm gonna use it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so yeah, there's that kind of like sense of angst and frustration, but like hopefully also a healthy dose of self-awareness.
We talk a lot about distractions, especially, and how necessary they are through everything that everybody's been going through. One non-music thing that you did was this film club. Is that still happening? Are you still doing the film club?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very much so.
How has that been going? Kind of where obviously your love of films is very well documented. When did you kind of really think that was going to be a thing that you would do in reality?
I think, well, I went to college, I went to university and studied English, and I always wanted to be a film journalist. So, you know, that's always something that has been like a real love of mine. But I would have been a terrible journalist. I wouldn't have asked any good questions. I guess when lockdown began, I just was, I think like a lot of people felt kind of quite lost and terrified and confused. And I think a lot of people in whatever walk of life they happen to be in, we're trying to think of like ways to be useful. You know, I think it's a real human trait to be like, what can I do? Like, mm-hmm. And it seemed like a nice idea to connect people, to give people a reason to meet up once a week and chat about things that I think are brilliant, you know, to travel from country to country via these films and to escape. And I guess the part of me that's a film fan and the part of me that's a music fan really loved the idea of taking questions from anyone and everyone online and giving them to the people, to the directors, to the actors, to the writers, to the cinematographers, to the animators. Like, I think for me, it was a lot about inclusion and empowering people who happen to like our music, but also fans of film, giving them hopefully a bit of a community, mm-hmm. and access to these people. Because, you know, obviously lockdown, everybody knew that everyone else around the world for the first time ever wasn't doing anything. And that's such a insanely unique thing that may never happen again. I mean, hopefully will never happen again. Sure. But, you know, for a minute, everyone was kind of available and the world was on its head. So people were up for having conversations that they might not have been able to have or wouldn't have had time to have before. So it was a real, you know, for me as a film fan, it was insanely surreal and such a privilege to get to interview these people, but not just with what I wanted to say, but with what people who were part of this film club wanted to say. And it was amazing. Like, you know, it gave a structure to my week. Every week I'd sit around and go through hundreds and sometimes thousands of questions and write them all out and you know, make a list of what countries they came from, and it was a real like humbling, a humbling thing to be part of, and really fun and really interesting. Like I'm always super impressed and proud of how insanely intelligent and thoughtful and challenging some of our fans are. You know, it's a real amazing thing. But yeah, I mean, dude, it was as a dorky film nerd, like fucking hell, it was amazing to get to speak to some of these people, like some amazing directors and creative people. Yeah.
Was there a moment or a conversation that stands out to you from Film Club where you were just like, man, I can't believe I got to do that?
To be honest, all of them, like every single week. Yeah, I can't pick one. I mean, week 2, getting to speak to Taika Waititi, who's like, you know, is a mate of mine, but also like, just what an amazing dude. Like the things he's achieved are quite crazy. He's made some of my favorite films, some of the best TV. I saw someone down here put Fanboy Dan was out in full force. I was. I think as well, like I always feel a level of uncomfortableness in talking about myself and in talking about our music. So whenever I get to talk about things I love, like other people's music or film, I feel like I can come alive in a way that, you know, and the sort of the barriers of self-consciousness kind of drop a bit.
Sure.
I'm always much more comfortable as a fan than as the guy that's making stuff. So it was really fun in that respect. But dude, having to host a conversation every week, like you're doing now, wasn't something I was expecting to ever have to do. So I was kind of having to navigate sort of being a presenter and an interviewer and an editor, and I'd make jingles every week from the country that we were in, and I'd do it in the language that was in. So, you know, it was, you know, having to speak to fans in Japan, help them translate and teach me how to pronounce, and then sing in Japanese, and then produce the song. Like it definitely took up a lot of time, which was great, you know, which is great.
That's incredible. I mean, the band and you in particular, certainly not shy about doing big, involved, well thought out projects, and that certainly seems like what Film Club was, for sure.
Well, I hope so. And it's, you know, it's kind of, let's say season 1 is over, it's on hiatus, but you know, we are cooking up plans for to keep it going. And yeah, no, it's I mean, I hope for the people who were involved in it, it was as big a thing as it was for me. I made it with a friend, Charlotte, and she's, you know, also a massive film nerd and works in film. And it was, I know for both of us and hopefully other people involved, it was a real lifeline through a very strange few months. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks to everyone that watched it and joined in.
As far as Bastille is concerned, it feels, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the plan right now is kind of no plan. You're making music, you're going to release it when you feel like releasing it. I know the question about live came up. The live music world is obviously very strange right now, but some bands are doing like the drive-in shows, some bands are doing Zoom performances. Can you tell us anything about kind of any future plans that you can tell us about for Bastille?
Well, I know that in the UK, we're just really concerned for crew and yeah, basically for the whole like events and live world is kind of in crisis at the moment. It's, you know, it's obviously there's a lot of people who've been affected in really different ways, but all these really highly skilled, amazing people have had no work for 4 months plus, and in the UK in particular, potentially no work until April. Like, it's kind of devastating. Yeah. And I guess, like I'm sure in most countries, just kind of looking to our governments, like, please, like, help these huge, important industries that people live off, but people also like enjoy every day and every weekend. Like, they need help. So that's kind of worrying. And I guess I feel very privileged within our industry to have other avenues in what I do. You know, I spend a lot of time in the studio and I love writing, but other people don't have that privilege. So I think it's kind of scary in that respect. Obviously, I miss playing shows. You know, a song like What You Gonna Do is made to be fucking moshed to. Like, yeah. So I can't wait to play shows, but you know, obviously we want to do it when it's safe. We want to do it when it's appropriate. Mm-hmm. And I think in the meantime, you know, we'll look to do live things online. You know, it's been really inspiring seeing people do really creative live like shows online, digital shows, streamed shows. I think it's brought out a lot of creativity in people who don't just want to be on a stage because there's with no crowd. They want to like build sets and move around the venue. And I saw the Streets did quite a cool thing recently. Laura Marling did an amazing gig from Union Chapel that I watched. You know, it's you know it's kind of it's scary and it's weird, but it's also bringing out best in a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, we'll see. You know, when there are shows to be done, we'll do them. We have festivals booked in the UK next summer and in Europe, but you know, we'll see if they happen or not. I hope they do, but
everything's still very much up in the air, kind of all over the place, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Dan, it's great seeing you, my man.
You too, dude. Thanks so much for your time. Sorry for talking so much.
No, it's such a pleasure talking to you on every single level, on a personal level, on a professional level. Congratulations on the new music. Congratulations on kind of this new direction and new energy with the band. And we are thrilled with what you're going to do, and we can't wait to hear more.
Thank you, mate. Thanks so much for having me. Take care. I'll see you soon.
Be safe,
All the best, mate. Take care. Bye.